Hey, babes, welcome to another show or another Let's Talk About. And today we're going to let's talk about communication. Um, I'm really excited because you guys know I like to have really honest and candid discussions. A lot of the stuff that we end up talking about is around things that I experience as well. And that's something that I kind of really want people to kind of understand and focus on. Um, because, a lot of the times we end up being able to handle things better because of the fact that, um, oops, sorry, because of the fact that we hear other people acknowledge as well that they're in the same situation or position. So I'm really excited, because I've realized also one of the things we have to do a lot is reflect. And a lot of that I have reflected in the past, I've realized that communication is really key, not just in your relationship, your love life, just in everything that you do every day. But today we're going to focus more on communication within a relationship. So I have this amazing couple that they basically, I'm going to let them come on. Jonah the Giant, and actually they're tagged as well in Evolving Wife. So I'm going to have them come on, and they're going to introduce themselves.
Hi.
Hi. How
Hello.
are you?
Great.
Doing good. Doing
You
really
guys look
good.
so happy. Black love, y'all. Black love. So let everybody know. Take turns introducing yourself.
Okay. So my name is Pitsia Gustav, and I am the wife of this wonderful man here. We've been married for almost 10 years. And in that time, we have started we started a blog to help people with their relationships. And at first it started off, just being about sharing our experience as a married couple, making it through the first few years of marriage. And then as time went on, we said that we wanted to make it into a full-time thing. So here we are a few years later. I have a blog. My husband is a marriage and family therapist. And we've just been blessed to be able to help so many people. Like, we've mentored a lot of people, like from singlehood into marriage. And it's been such a
Congratulations.
blessing. Yeah, it's just been such a blessing to see like the evolution of a person from when they're single all the way up until they get married. So we've been fortunate to do that. And I'll let my husband tell the rest of the story.
Yes, my name is Jonathan, but they call me Jono the Giant. I am a marriage and family therapist by trade. So I do counsel individuals, I do counsel couples and coach them through those things that we're going to talk about today, like really communication. And so for the longest that I can remember, let's say 10 years, we've always put our relationship on Front Street. We've always been a couple that would say the things that most couples would not say. I think overall that's just who I am as a person, and I kind of just influenced my wife in that way, and she realized the importance of it, because you just see when you're transparent, the burden is lifted off, someone else. So they realize that, man, I thought I was the only one. Or if you're going through it, dang, so that makes sense for me to go through it too. So yeah, we host conferences on relationships often. We actually have one coming up October 17th of this year. Um, well, my wife is doing a sexuality course, because we realize a lot of women are not necessarily in tune with their sexuality, or they're embarrassed about it, especially young women who've grown up in a how do you say it, like a very conservative
Religious.
culture.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
religious culture is like sex. They tell you no sex, no sex, no sex, and then once you get married, you don't know what the heck to do. You just like,
Yeah.
you don't know what's going on. You're just embarrassed
Wow.
and whatever. So just breaking those stigmas
Yeah.
and anything to do with relationships, man. We just really try to be at the forefront of it and
Yeah.
help our people, help our community just get over certain things and get to that next step.
Now, you mentioned something, you're because so you're more transparent at a point in time than she was, correct?
Right.
And how did you guys really get there? Because I'll be honest with you, for myself, like just speaking from my experience, like I like to be very transparent. I like to be open. Um,
Mhm.
my partner is like he's more on the don't nobody got to know our business type of thing. But I feel that there's a respectful way that you can do that, but still try to help other people because, and I say that because I know when I went through a divorce, and I remember I talked about it for the first time on one of my talk shows, I had a few young ladies came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, how did you get there?" Like all these questions, there was so much because when they said it, I was like, nobody ever wants to talk about it, but there's so many people that are like trying to figure it out. So what was, okay, what were some things that kind of helped you kind of understand?
Um, like understand like the need to be vulnerable.
Yes. That's a really good way to put it because it is a vulnerability that some people are afraid to give up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, what really helped was that I was like blogging about all these things.
Well, even before then, though,
Well,
we had to go to the
like
very
when we were
beginning.
dating.
Yeah, like you were not open with your life
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
I
So
see.
you
Yes.
started from the blog. You'd had to overcome that already.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we first started dating, I come from a family that's very like strict, very conservative, and just very like bougie, I guess. Like people have told me that, my family is a little bougie or whatnot. So we don't like let me give you an example of this. So when my parents got divorced when I was in college, we were going to church and no one ever knew that my parents had gotten divorced because everything was just hush hush. Nobody at their jobs knew that they were divorced for years after it happened because they were very, hush hush about it.
Quiet.
So for me, it wasn't easy for me to open up about certain things, but I think what helped me is that my husband was a very transparent and open person. And in a relationship, when you have one person that's like willing to put their pride aside and just kind of bare their souls, it like you see somebody bearing their soul to you, then you kind of feel like, man, like you've shared this with me. Like that's an honor. That's a huge responsibility. And you feel, I don't want to say obligated, but you kind of feel the freedom to do the same thing in that space with the person. So I would say like I became a more open person as a result of his influence because I just constantly saw him like being honest, and and that was kind of like one of my issues with him in the beginning was that he was just like so direct. I was like, what is your problem? You're rude. But no, like it has a very positive side to it because I never had to worry that he was just saying one thing, but really thinking about something else. So I think that was like a really powerful thing in our relationship that allowed me to open up and feel freedom to share my story with him, to let him in and like tell him like my deep, dark, traumatic baggage, you know? And because we kind of established that norm with each other, that's what allowed us to be able to open up with other people later on.
And to add to that as well, I think, and we've spoken about this, I think one thing that brought her over to the transparent side is she saw how many meaningful relationships I had.
Yes, that's true.
She saw like,
That's
wow,
true.
like people were calling me at all different times of the day, all different times of the night, and people will share stuff with me that they probably never shared with anyone before.
Yeah.
And she saw how people trusted me. And so at the end of the day, a lot of people don't know the benefits of vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like I said, it's like yo, you freeing other people. Like, I'm securing myself enough to let you know that, hey, this is what I've been through. This is what I went through. Like, even to this day, I have people, like I have friends of friends that will say, hey man, you gotta speak to Jono. Like males, you gotta speak to Jono. And men tell him like, yeah, I stepped out on my wife and I don't know what to do. Like people are just confiding me and telling me different things. Why? Because I'm not afraid to be that safe place for other people. And if I have a similar experience, I'll let you know.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I think, like, a lot of times, especially for men, no, not just men, but people in general, when you think of somebody knowing your secrets, you always think of it in a negative light. Like, they're gonna use it against me later.
Yeah.
That paranoia.
Right, exactly. But like, here's the thing. When somebody knows, like, instead of looking at it that way in the negative, threatening light, imagine like this person knows your secrets and they're still not, like, they're not judging you. They still love you the same way. They still treat you the same way. And so whatever you're going through, you have somebody in your corner. And I think that's like a huge thing. Like when people are in relationships and they're going through problems, they think they're the only one. Why? Because nobody's talking about it. So you just feel alone and you feel isolated. And guess what? 90% of the time, the problem that you're having is a common issue that all couples face. And then you go, you talk to somebody about it, they're like, yeah, me too. And you're like, what? You too? I'm not weird? Oh my God. Like, so I think especially like in the Black community, like we need to normalize opening up and just sharing and just being a community of people that can be there for each other.
So let me ask you, when you guys back in the day, when Jonah was macking and he was like, let me show Shorty why she need to be with me. At that time, let's say the first year, 2 years of your relationship before marriage, because you guys have been married 10 years, right?
Yeah.
How long did you guys date before that?
3 years, 3.5
3
years.
years. Okay. In that time frame, did you at any point in time did you feel like I'm good at communicating? Like when you guys were getting into the relationship, did you have a feeling like, okay, I can talk, I'm good at this?
Yeah, absolutely. I still feel that way,
I think we all go in with that mindset.
Yeah, I felt that way.
At what point in time did you realize that okay, maybe I'm not that good at communicating?
I think when we got married is when I had to really be real with myself. There were probably moments before that where he probably realized I wasn't as good as I thought, but like being married and living with him and like, when you have to share a car and share finances and your schedules have to align. Yeah. Sometimes I would be like, why didn't you XYZ? And he's like, you didn't really express to me the importance of XYZ. And
or when I'll be like, did you do this? Or why are you doing that? I thought we were gonna do this. Like, oh no, I thought. And I'm like, thought what? You can assume that I thought.
That's fine.
It's just like simple stuff. Or like, and this is the biggest thing that I always fall into, where I like mind read. Like he'll do something, but instead of talking to him about it, I make up a story in my mind about why he did it. Like, oh my God, he's being so quiet right now, he must be mad at something. You know what? I just don't understand what's going on in our relationship. Why is it always like it just like goes down a slope.
This is a good one.
A downward spiral.
But our fourth year of marriage, right? We had our first child. We had our daughter.
Oh
my goodness. So we come home after 3 days in the hospital, and when we get home, she goes into the room, and I'm in the living room, and the NBA season had just started, literally like 2 days before my daughter was born. Mm-hmm. So the way that I am as a person, I'm very introverted in a way where I'm very introspective. So it could be something minor, it could be something major. I'm looking at all the details, all the different layers of that situation. Okay. So this is a major thing where my daughter it's like my first child. Never had a child before. It's my first child. So she goes in the room. I sit in the living room, and I'm like just contemplating my life. I'm like, whoa, this is it. Like
Kids
I'm
would do
a
that.
dad. Like this is next level stuff. And
But
she's in the
on
room.
so on my end, we just got home with our newborn daughter, and he sits down in front of the TV watching basketball instead of like all of us being together as a new family. No, that's what I was thinking though at the time. Right? I was like, wow, like he is just watching basketball, so this moment means nothing to him, and I'm just like sitting in the rocking chair in the room holding the baby crying, and I'm
she's
like,
crying in the room.
The postpartum is hitting. You're like, he doesn't really.
I was like like I really felt like he did not care about that moment.
And you know what? What I like about, I think for me, the thing that I appreciate about our relationship the most, and it's always been there, is that even though we go through these type of things, like, oh, she's in the room thinking like what's happened to our family, and like she's just misinterpreting my actions, or I'm not reading her correctly. Even though we go through those things and we may have a spat, it's like we become scientists and we dissect that situation, and it's like, okay, so you were thinking this because of that. I was thinking this because of this. And then we always link it back to it. I guess that's just a therapist in me, just to link back into, okay, your childhood. Because a lot of times, the reason why we act, we do, and we think the certain ways that we do is because of our upbringing.
Oh my
So
gosh,
this is like so, and I think, man, I'm counseling some couples right now, and I'm just like, man, you guys have never, after 5, 10+ years of being married, you've never talked about this that happened to you when you was a kid, or your relationship with your parents. And it's like, this is insane. This is why you have all these problems.
Yeah.
Because you don't talk. And I understand why people don't want to go there, because what I'm experiencing when I'm in a therapy room is that when you go back to the past, it's like literally you're stepping back into the past, and all those feelings that you had, that you pressed deep down, they start to rise up to the surface. And the way that our minds work, our minds are there to protect ourselves. It's there to protect us. So you don't want to go revisit those moments. But in order for you to have a relationship that is a thriving one, you have to go back there. You have to go back to that point. So even at that time, she's in a room crying, and think we're not together. She comes from a family that's kind of together. They're together in their way. They're together. Me, I come from a totally different dynamic where I didn't grow up with my parents. I don't know my father. I never grew up with my mother. My grandmother raised me. I didn't grow up with my
completely
siblings. So I grew up in isolation. So anytime that I try to figure something out, I go into a shell. That's what I naturally do. When I'm trying to figure out my emotions, my thoughts, I just go in isolation.
And in my family, when we're trying to figure out our thoughts, we talk to each other.
Yeah. So if you don't know that stuff, you're going to take how your partner's method of doing things personally. Yeah. It got nothing to do with you.
Oh man, y'all, you don't understand, like just in that little, I don't even, what my ticker, like I don't, in that time frame, I mean, it just was.
It got heavy,
but it was things that, and that's what I want folks that watch this and hear this. I want them to just, I want light bulbs to start to turn on, because, that whole go in the rooms, listen, that was me. Like, I'm like, oh my, and we have a way, and I can't say just women, because I've seen guys do it well as well. It's just, they interpret that feeling instead of having the discussion.
Yeah.
But it's like the communication. So, one of the things that I've realized, even as I've been reflecting like on my relationship, is the fact that I think back on so many things that we just flat out didn't have the discussion, I didn't even have the idea to ask. People think at the beginning, what's your favorite color? Like, we don't realize like the real questions that we need to be asking is, hey, how's your relationship with, how's this,
Yeah.
because asking about the colors, those people are asking like, I kind of want folks to realize, okay, first things first, I could tell you what's one of the issues that I remember I encountered was the fact that, and in our generation right now is infamous for this. You meet somebody, they cool, you exchange numbers, you guys been texting every day, come over, what's up? You spend a little time. The next day, spend some more time. Now there's a habit. This person becomes an everyday person,
Yeah.
right? But everyone is still going on about their business. And then you have time that goes by, and then you have a incident, a moment where it's like, wait, why are you talking to this person, right? And I think Insecure recently had that on their show where Molly got in her feelings that Andrew was seeing other people. And I saw her get bothered, and I'm like, in retrospect, based because I've done retrospecting, you can't get bothered about something you never had the discussion about.
Yeah.
And we have a problem of getting mad. And then I've realized, and I'm like I said, I'm speaking from my experiences, you don't have those discussions. The argument happens, the issues happen, you still try to push through. However, depending on how that person that you're dealing with is, if they don't know how to heal or work through things, that starts to add on grudges and stuff. They start to hold
Resentment.
Yes, the resentment against you. And in your head, you're like, but we didn't have that discussion. It shouldn't be that serious. But to them, it's like, but it was. And so that's where, honestly, like I started to really think of all the different things that I know we didn't talk about, we didn't ask, we didn't just have, it was just this assumption. But then I hear all of my friends and their issues, and it's the same thing. It's like, oh, he has this expectation of me and da da da. But you can't get mad if you guys haven't had that discussion. Till you have the discussion, everything's an assumption.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing that when people go through therapy, we always talk about expectations. Like, you have to talk about what exactly are you expecting from this person, just from even like little things like who's gonna do the dishes, who's gonna do the laundry, who's gonna take care of the kids, who's like little stuff like that. But also that all builds up to the big stuff too. Like, what do you expect from me, like as a husband? What do you expect from me as a wife, like emotionally? Like, if you're mad about something, do you want me to give you space, or do you want to try to work it out right away? Like, these are all expectations that we have of each other. Like, if he gets mad, like when he gets mad, he just goes to sleep. That's how he calms down. But for me, I was like, we're in an argument and you're going to take a nap. Like, so this doesn't matter to you then. Like, this is nothing to you then, right? Then we have to talk about, like, this is how I am when I'm upset. This is how I have to cool down. So until, like you said, until you talk about those things, you're just going to build up these stories in your mind about the person. You're going to take what they're doing personally, and then you're going to have resentment. And it could have all been avoided with a conversation.
Like, I feel like there needs to be a new version of the courting phase. Like, whatever the old questions were from back in the day, I don't even know. Like, I don't want to know about your color. I don't want to know what you like to eat right now. I need to know, because, those are the questions that would trigger. So I am huge into therapy. And one of the things that I kind of realized that the older you get to, y'all, our baggage it gets heavier every year. And I realized I don't care what it is. I feel like when you get with somebody, regardless of what, I personally feel there should be an understanding of saying, hey, let's go to therapy let's ask those questions, because the question about the expectations, I wouldn't and I was married for 10 years. Well, by default, because the divorce took a little longer, but anyways, and when during that time frame, I was in a marriage, and I can confidently, and I have no problem saying that, I didn't realize what I wanted in a relationship, in a partner, in anything, till my I think my stepdad passed away in 2014. I got married in 2007. Okay. I didn't realize till then what I wanted in a partner, but by then my marriage was already ending. And it was like, gosh, I never really thought about that. I just was like, he likes me, I like him. He said he got on a knee, I could, let's do it, and we don't realize we need to make sure that we're okay. And those questions, like, I really want to, and you guys may have it, and that's why I want folks to be able to, after this is done, to reach out to you and ask those questions, or maybe you guys have the starter questions to determine, because the older you get, you don't want to waste time. And it's like, and then people resent that, like, oh, I wasted all this time and you don't even want to have kids. That's a big one. I've seen couples get to the get on one knee, yeah, I love you, now will I do? And then, like, the week of the wedding, they're like, wait, you don't want kids? Like, how has that not been a discussion? And y'all been probably working at having kids
right
this whole time frame.
right
Somebody asked a really good question, because, and I definitely, whatever tips you have, they said, how do y'all get to the point where you dissect the situation, on each of you? Because at the end of the day, you both have two different personalities, two different temperatures, and everybody's different. I can get heated, but because I know the effects of words and anger, I actually calm down and I just stay in the moment because I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. So kind of like I shut down when I'm upset because I'm processing everything.
Right.
But somebody else may, like you said, I need to talk about this now. But if that persistence continues, and if the tone is not there, and all of these things start to it can go out of whack. So how do you even try to avoid that, to be able to dissect and have those discussions calmly?
Well, I think first thing first is that a lot of times you're gonna have to make the mistake a few times before you realize that, okay, this is not working. Exactly. So it's not, sometimes I think we're trying to avoid the blow up. Nah, you need to blow up sometimes so you can see, dang, this didn't turn out well. Right. Now you ask the question, why didn't it turn out well? Yeah. What happened? What was my approach? What was our approach? Was I too loud? Was I too silent? So on and so forth. So you kind of had to let the thing happen sometimes. Sometimes you just can't avoid it. Why? Because you have two people coming together, two different backgrounds, two different lifestyles, two different views of the world. So now you're with that person and you're trying to create, in a sense, one view, right? So there's going to be, there's going to be some conflict on how you handle situations. So I think that's one. Number two, there's a thing you have to be able to manage. When I say manage, I mean, we do a very poor job at doing this, managing your emotions. We do a very poor job at managing our emotions. That's why sometimes we could just be too much in the time, or too quiet in the moment, because we don't necessarily know how to manage our emotions. And I'm gonna be honest with you, especially growing up in the Black community, it's like, yo, it's either you just on fire, or you just extra low.
No in between.
So there's no in between. So you have to find that, what's that in between, and that takes time. We still have arguments where it's like it gets heated. We haven't perfected it, but what we do is we just come back to the table, and we talk about it. I remember our last real disagreement that we had. I just had to say in the moment, I said, look, I feel, emotions are getting heated, it's getting hot in here. Let's just table this conversation. Let's table it and let's come back to it. Because we're not going to get anything out of this.
When do you come back, though? How do you come back? Because I realize that's one of my issues. I could say that, and then I got to turn off petty Anna.
But you have to turn off petty Anna, you said?
Petty Anna. I'll be like,
petty Anna. Yeah. So, but that's the thing. You have an issue with managing your emotions. Why are you being petty? Why are you being petty? Why are you being petty? It's like, we're taking, what's the purpose of the break? We're tabling it so that we can
To calm down.
effectively come up with a solution. And the problem with a lot of couples is that you're taking this thing so personal, you're making it seem as if it's an attack on you. No, we're in this together. We need to be coming up with a solution for this problem. So attack the problem, not the person. But when you don't know how to manage your emotions, you end up attacking the person. That's the big issue. But like I said, it takes time. So for us, like we try to come up with some guidelines. So tabling a conversation is one. Now I can't tell a couple how long to take because everybody's different. Right? For us, we didn't say, oh, we're gonna come back in an hour. We're gonna come back. We didn't say that.
Routine.
Yeah. We didn't say any of that. You just said, let's table it. And then I went outside just maybe for like 15, 20, 30 minutes. I don't know how long it was. And then I went into the room, and then she was in the room, and she just started the conversation. Oh, I didn't realize I still had those emotions from that time. That's why I felt this way. And then the conversation happened organically.
Yeah. So I think, like, for us, I'm usually the one that gets heated. So and I'm petty. Like, I like to feel like I'm getting my revenge. Like, I'm gonna give you the silent treatment. You're gonna miss me. You're gonna feel bad, and then you're gonna come back and apologize. But I realized,
that don't work. It doesn't work.
You're going through the whole day mad at each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, now we have kids, and I'm just like, that energy is like negative, and you don't want your kids around that. So you just, like, I've learned, like, once my emotions like get high, I have to like step back and be like, what am I really mad at? I'm not really mad at him. I'm mad at something he did, but I still love him. Like he said, like your partner is not your enemy. So I have to like remember we're a team. We're in this relationship together. Like, we're in this forever. So we have to make sure that we address the situation. So that's how we usually do it. And it's not ever going to be like a systematic thing, because depending on, sometimes you get really heated over something because it's triggering something from the past.
Exactly.
Right? And it takes a minute for you to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the biggest thing for a couple to get to that point is for you to just be committed to always be reflecting. Because some people never reflect. They just talk and do. And they blame, and they never look at themselves.
Yeah, man.
And that's like the biggest obstacle in relationships. Like, are willing to examine yourself. How are you gonna grow?
But he's not.
How are you gonna learn better?
But she's not looking at.
Yeah, you're just looking at the other person like they need to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
But what about you? You got some growing up to do too.
But let me ask you, how do you, in addition to that, because I know this happens a lot as well, is, well, it's quite a few things. So let me go into the first one, where you have a partner that is aware of their issues, is aware of their triggers. Like, I know my triggers, I know my issues. I know I shut down on communication because I have little bipolar moments. Like, I know I can either trigger and I go, whoop, put the turtle back in the shell, let it woosah. But I also know I hate confrontation. And anything that I feel will be that might upset you, that might make you think something because of your past actions, I just shut down. Or I might be like, okay, if it ain't broke, like, but you're aware of that, right? So, but because it is something that you're working through, there's been issues, right?
Yeah.
And couples, I've noticed, let's say an issue happens today and it's similar of a situation that your partner already kind of had an issue with you before. How do you make sure that you stay on the right now issue and then try to figure out at a later time how to address the concern that they may have about a recurring issue?
Because no, that's a great question. I think those things need to be determined in what I call in times of peace.
Yes.
Okay.
Like,
The recurring issues.
right, like, for example, what do you like to do as a couple? We like to go out to eat. That's our thing. We like to go out to eat. Um, we have our thing where we watch Marvel movies together. We go to the theaters when they come out. So this is a time of peace. This is when the water is still. There's no waves, right? This is the time to talk about, okay, how do you want to handle those type of situations?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the emotions are not riled up. If you're trying to have this conversation when the emotions are riled up, you've already lost.
Yeah.
You got to have those conversations. You got to have this talk in times of peace. And this is where it comes to really being strategic, because what I do in our relationship, in this regards, I'm more of the level-headed one in this regards. Like, I would just, if there's a situation, I wake up early in the morning and I go walking and I think about, okay, what could I do better in this situation? How can we get to the next step? Mm-hmm. Right? You have to be able to do that. So even before you can even have this conversation in a time of peace, you have to come to a time within yourself to see how you can solve the problem. Not necessarily saying, oh, wow, she did this and she did that, and he was doing this and he was doing that. And you're in your time alone and you're complaining about what that person did or what they didn't do, instead of focusing on, man, like, how can I solve? What can I do on my part to try to best bridge the gap between us two and solve the problem? So I came up with that strategy just by doing simple walks early in the morning. Like, I thought about it, I said, hey, when we have issues, why am I going to bring up a recurring issue when we're already in the midst of an argument? That's just adding fuel to the fire. Why am I? That makes no sense.
A bunch of fuel.
Right. So then I had to test it. I had to test it. Go out to dinner, go eat, and we're just having good conversation. And even just the way that you talk about it, like, man, I remember that time when you kind of got upset. Or do you remember that time when I got upset about this and that and that? You can kind of talk about it in a better light. Why? Because you're emotionally stable. The waves are not crashing. Yeah. Everything is settled.
Oof. Listen, somebody said, yes, don't waste my time because I barely got it. I need y'all to. It really. So now, because I really want people to, like I said, I want people to focus on communication in the beginning, and I see people like traditionally, right? Once you're about to get married, that's where I see couples rush to therapy.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. I feel like, but that's so I feel like that just was, but realistically, I feel like the minute you decide that you want to invest your time, your heart, your energy into an individual, the way I see it now is this is the time to either go to therapy or pick up the Jono the Giant checklist of things to talk about, in the beginning to make sure, because that's how you make sure 2 years from now you won't be like, I should have just gone with Tony. Tony said he was gonna take care of me, whatever that is, because hey, girls start going through but it's just, I really want to move communication early on, key communication, because they communicate, sexting, little emojis. No,
but that's the problem there. This is what happens to a lot of couples, man. This is what I see happens all the time, right? I have couples that come to me in therapy, and when I start going through their dating history, I'm like, wow, what's the foundation of your relationship? Touching, kissing, sex. And what a lot of people don't understand is that when you're having sex before you get married, like, anyone will tell you, it clouds your judgment. Like, it messes with your mind and your emotions. Look,
our homegirls call it dickmatized. That's on our
No, it's true. It's true. It's like, I've become a victim of that. It's like, I think one of my one of our friends put on Facebook the other day. He was like, "Some of you know good damn well that you would not have been together this long if you ain't start having sex." It is like, see, the thing is, and it's really just about self-control. Like, yo, she fine, he look good, I get it. That's no problem. We're human beings, absolutely, definitely. But you have to think long term. Like, man, if I take this step, I'm horny as I don't know what right now. But if I take this step right now, it's gonna probably take it to another level. And here's my thing, right? It happens to you once, cool. It happens to you twice, okay. But you can't go through 5, 6, 7, 8 relationships. The same trend keeps happening over and over and over and over again. That makes absolutely no sense. When are you gonna learn? Like, hey, it's because I'm giving in too soon. This is why I keep falling into this position. So once the sex get into the equation, oh man, sex becomes a communication. So that's
right.
it. Like,
I'm outside, open the door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I people don't, that's not what they want to hear, but I'm telling you, you look it up like scientifically, man. Sex does all type of things to you, man. It does all type of things to your mind. You can't objectively make a right decision as to why you should be with somebody. Like, yo, buddy been a dog long time ago. But because you're having sex with him, you can't see that. And then you get in a relationship, you get married, and then it's like you already got like 3 kids, and it's like, oh, now the blinders want to come off. No, your friends been telling you about him long time ago. They've been telling you about her long time ago, but you couldn't get to that point of communicating and seeing the signs. Why? Because you were intimately, like, sexually invested. Yeah.
Ooh. Somebody said, for those, so I got 2 questions. So they said, for those dating, how do you have that expectation talk without scaring them off in the time frame? And I do know that's always scary, and I feel like that's
and what do you
scary.
mean by that?
I get it. So how do you have, because I'm saying bring the communication of these conversations earlier on in the beginning, right? Yeah. But I've heard and I've seen, we've seen movies that show it, that the minute those questions get serious, like, wait, you trying to get to, so, how do you have those without scaring the person off? I mean, I would assume if that scares them off, and this is not the person that is ready for that type of energy that you're looking for.
Exactly. That's it right there. That's the answer. Like, if you're scaring them off, that means you guys are not on the same wavelength. They want to have fun and just kick it and chill, and you try to make sure that you can see if the relationship is deeper than what it really is at the moment. Can we take it to the next level? And if you're scaring them off, then I mean, you gotta let them move. You gotta let them go. You gotta let them move on.
Somebody says, so sex isn't effective communication. Yikes. Close eyes.
You said what? What did it say?
So sex isn't effective communication? Yikes. No, Jackie. So the question is there a actual proper form of communication? And it's a 2-part question. Is there a time duration when to realize it's not working for both parties?
There's no real, and that's the thing. I think we look for concrete answers and solutions, but there's not. Okay, you have to understand that you and that person have to develop something unique, and that takes time when you're talking about communicating. Yeah. Because my wife and I are totally 2 different people when it comes to doing a lot of things, like communicating is one of them. But my job is to understand her communication style in order for me to really know how to best communicate to her. And she needs to be able to do the same thing. And that's the best that I can tell you. Like, I have this assessment that I always give couples, and it shows you how you like to be taught, how you like to teach, how you like to be communicated to, how you like to communicate. And they're looking at it, like, oh my goodness, that is so true. And you can even see, even in that conversation, they're trying to like change one another. I'm like, no.
Don't change.
No. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to try to change anyone. We're here to gain some self-awareness. We're here to gain awareness, I should say, on your partner.
Yeah.
and why they do and why they say and why they act the way that they act. So there's no real clear-cut answers for that. It's like you have to be patient, sit in it, understand. Really, that's the key thing. Understanding your partner, like really getting to know them.
But I think too, like communication is a skill. You have
And it's
to
not just
learn it.
speaking too.
Yeah, it's not just talking. It's something that you have to learn and practice.
Yeah, man.
Like you're not just gonna like fall into a relationship and automatically know how to communicate. You know, this is why we do what we do, because we're actually teaching people the tools of communication and how to handle problems. And until you like sit down and learn that, you're not going to know, right? Because you don't know what you don't know,
Exactly.
right? You don't necessarily
True.
know how destructive what you're doing is right now. Like you don't know until it's too late, until the damage has been done. So for us, what we did was when we got engaged, we got premarital counseling. And I will always remember those conversations because everything we talked about came up again when we got married. And we were like,
and it's still coming up.
This is what this is what
10
we
years
discussed
later.
in premarital counseling, that this is what they're talking about, you know? So you have that reference to go back to, you have that toolbox that you can pull out and say, you see, this is one of the things that we talked about that we need to keep talking about, you know, like
we still go to therapy.
And we still go to therapy. Like we were in individual therapy and couples therapy.
Do you think though that assumption or that expectation that there's always like this false expectation of okay, why you like you mentioned as far as the time frame, like learning each other, like at the end of the day, and I don't know, I feel like it takes time. You know, if I've done the counseling, the therapy by myself, and you know, at what point in time, let me actually wait before, because if the choo-choo gets off the train tracks, it ain't coming back, honey. What do you, you know, how do you help your partner really understand you? By this, I mean, you have a partner that may know their issues. They may, you know, be aware, and they're still learning through their issues because they never really dealt with them. But they know enough that they can tell you, because like you mentioned the, you know, communication, you know, how do you like to be talked to? You know, I remember in my with my ex-husband, like he felt like I had to be babied. But that's how I learned when I started to go to therapy after and during that time frame. I realized like that's just how I am, like that's how I need to be. And when, you know, typically if you explain that, it's like, so I have to baby, so I have to cater to you, you know, that type of feeling, or that's the expression you get from your partner. How do you get your partner, I guess it would be going through to therapy together to have them understand, like
not necessarily.
I would say the personality test really helped. Like if you take a personality test and
well, I've done a few of those.
read each other's
Yeah.
each other's personality test results, because like those things are very, very accurate. And if your partner takes the time to read it and study it, then they'll be able to understand. Because it's one thing for you to tell your partner, like, this is how I am. And they're like, nah, you tripping, whatever. But then once you take the personality test, it's right there in black and white. You can't argue with that. You know, that's just who they are.
Would you say that's something that couples need to get away from? Like you just said it, like somebody could tell you, no, this is what I thought, or this is why I did it, and your partner says, no, that's not it.
Oh no, yeah, that's mind reading. And I used to do that all the time. I still do it sometimes. And he has to tell me, like, you're mind reading right now. Like, our therapist told me this one time in one of our sessions. Like, I was like, yeah, you know, he's doing this because XYZ. And she's like, wait a minute, did he tell you that? Or did you just think that? So that's like, that's something that people do all the time. People do it all the time, but that's like, that's not a good way to communicate. That messes up your communication, actually. You're gonna just end up projecting like insecurities you have about yourself onto your partner.
So now, you know, you said, I think, was it 4 years in, you guys got one of the biggest changes that happens in a
Yeah.
relationship. How did kids affect your communication? Because I know for me, my daughter was actually the reason it took a while, but she was the reason I actually ended up finally leaving my marriage, because it just wasn't working. And how we were, he didn't believe in therapy. He didn't believe in any of the stuff that I was understanding and learning and getting into. And I just was like, I can't let my daughter grow up thinking this is, because that's one of the things I learned is kids will feel that what they're seeing is normal, especially if it stays consistent. And in my head, I said, I cannot continue to have her here thinking this is what a marriage, because mommy and daddy was married, is supposed to be like.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, so how did having kids change our community?
Did it make you more aware of it?
Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, like when we got, one of the reasons why we ended up going to couples therapy again, when was that, last year, 2019? And even like I ended up in individual therapy in 2018 was because I realized like how crucial it is. Like when you were talking about kids, it's not just what you say, it's also the energy, that spirit that is in the house, and that's something that when I was growing up, like my parents, their energy towards each other, like it was toxic at times, and sometimes it just made me not want to be at home, like sometimes I would just dread coming home. So I knew that I did not want that for my kids. I want my kids to be in a space with mommy and daddy and feel happy. I don't want them to feel that tension between us, that we're mad at each other, but we're just putting fake smiles on because
kids
they're around.
Feel it. Oh my
they
gosh,
will still know. And you as a human, like sometimes your smile will slip and they will see it. Like my daughter has asked me, Mommy, are you happy?
Yeah, she's asking that too.
Oh my gosh. That breaks your heart. My daughter said that.
Yeah.
So like I was like, I don't want that, So that's what gave it even more of a sense of urgency for us to figure out like what's happening between us and for us to get help to work things out.
Only just having kids, man. I know for me, when we had our first child, man, it's okay. First and foremost, it all stems from my childhood because my father wasn't there, my mother wasn't there. But my grandfather was in my life for a couple of years, between 2 and 5, and then he passed away. So from what I saw from him was just ultra responsibility. Like he even left me like a fund. Like he left me thousands of dollars. He had a fund that he saved for me. So that really impacted me in a major way. So now, fast forwarding to having our first child, I'm taking that from the past and I'm like, okay, I have to make sure that I give my child the best life possible. I have to make sure that I'm set up financially to give her what she needs, talking about college, talking about, whatever she's going to need, because I grew up poor. So I'm like, yo, I got to make sure she got the Jordans, she got all these different things. I got to make sure I have my ducks in order, right? So that right there made me go super, super duper on the right, which is ultra, 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 ultra responsible, to the point where I realized that I lost myself. I stopped doing the things that I loved. I stopped enjoying my own life. And as a result, I stopped doing the things in the relationship that made my wife happy, like simple things, like just going out to eat or just doing little things. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, nope, we can't do it because we got to do this. Nope, can't do it because we got to do that. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do that. So it always goes back to a matter of that communication piece, right? Because my wife expressed to me like, hey, yo, we cannot continue like this. This is a problem. And I'm like, okay. In the beginning, I'm like, honestly, I'm like, yo, you kind of tripping right now. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. But as I take time to really reflect, I'm like, yeah, this is not the best. This is not the best. We're too tight. Well, I'm too tight. And then this is where the conversation comes into the picture. This is where we start talking. And this is when I was like, you know what? I realized, and she makes fun of me of that because I always say, you know what I realized? That's my, she's about
That's a starter line.
Yeah, always,
Like,
always.
oh, he about to
Yeah,
be
so it's
woke. She be like, he about to be woke.
like, yeah, so that's what we are having a conversation, and it's like childhood, upbringing, experiences. And then when we have these talks, this is when now you equip, or I should say, you give your partner the ammunition, the tools that they need to understand you better. So now when you act out of pocket, they're like, okay, don't take it personal. He already explained, she already explained why they're doing such and such and such. I just got to reel them back in.
Yeah. I think it's important not to let kids become
Nah.
the center of your relationship, even though
we're still trying to get out of that, boy.
They influence it so much, but you have to still keep your relationship. You got to keep the lines of communication open. Like sometimes it's like they wait for us to start talking to interrupt us and try to talk to us.
Oh my, I just want to strangle their neck.
I'm like,
what's your problem? It's like they do it on purpose. I'm like, if you don't stop it, you don't cut it out. So you end up having to do yeah. Try to, have a long time like today, her mom is in town, mom is here, so I was like, we never go shopping together, never. I was like, anymore. Yeah, anymore. So I was like, she's gonna go to Costco, and I was like, man, let's just go together. And she says, without the kids? I was like, yeah, without them.
It just felt weird.
Yeah, it's like let's try to find those different type of moments, man, because it's like if you don't find those moments, man, and it will strip the love away from your relationship slowly but surely. Yeah. So you got to be able to even manage your time together with the kids, and to just really set those boundaries. Because my wife is like, we're so polar opposite. She always says yes before she thinks to say no. I always say no before I think to say yes.
Yeah. So she's the one that'll get you in something that you be like.
Exactly. Because she be doing that with the kids. She'd be like, oh, it's like, can we go on a bike ride? Yeah, your dad and I were taking a bike ride. I said, whoa. I didn't agree to this. Like, no, I got things I got to do. Like, I didn't agree to this. You know what I mean? So it's like, I notice the kids, and the kids, they know that. So they'll go to her and be like, hey, mama, look what I have. And they see
kids keep game.
Yeah, they see us talking. I'm like, you think it's slick? Like, you asking your mom, because she's gonna be like, oh, she's gonna turn right away from me and just start talking to them. I'm like, wow, so you're trying to steal my wife. That's what you're doing.
Now, somebody asked, well, what about, this will be the last question I'll take from them. Well, what about love languages? And I think you guys kind of touched on it earlier. I mean, it's one of those things that you ask, you kind of get to know, but one of the things that, you mentioned early on in the beginning, as far as when we talked about being understanding of being transparent about both y'all relationship, because you got to hear, and I guess through the communication of his past relationships, and I feel like the love language, it all ties into asking and also understanding. There was a therapist one time, she mentioned, she was like, sometimes we get mad at our friends because of how they take love, and the love that they're shown from somebody isn't really love, right? However, in that they're not in that relationship, but in that person's upbringing, love to them was watching mommy all the time, or watching daddy always check mommy about something. I know daddy loves mommy, but he still would get mad, but that mad is because he loves her. So those actions like that, some people will still take it, because that's how they'll deal it, because that's how they project their love. But how can you directly say or ask, what's your love language? Like, how do you determine that, and how do you find your love language? Because it took me a while. It took me till after 25 to figure out my love language.
I still don't know my love language. I don't know what it is.
I'm still figuring it out. I got the little map. I'm coloring by numbers. I'm getting there.
No, I think it's responsibility. That's what it is.
Lord.
But that's an act of service.
Look at his Zoe in the background.
My mom. Yeah. Yeah, like that whole love language thing, Dr. Gary Thomas came up with it, you know, because sometimes you give somebody, like, you think you're showing affection, but that person is not receiving it as affection.
Yeah.
And it's how you would want to be shown affection.
Words of affirmation?
For me, it's words of affirmation.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. I'm good at the gifts though.
He's good at the gifts.
Words of affirmation, nah.
Words of affirmation, yeah.
But here's the thing. Like you just mentioned, right? The upbringing.
Yeah.
My wife growing up, she was always praised. Always praised.
For my grades.
For her grades.
And my obedient behavior.
Right. She was always praised. But for me, words of affirmation. It's like
I definitely can see what that can create.
You get a compliment from him.
Yeah.
It's very
and
hard.
I have to tell myself, like, it's time to compliment. Like, I would, like, literally, she'll get all dressed up and we're about to go somewhere and whatever. Or maybe she's going somewhere on her own. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, wow, she looks really nice right now. That's really, and I have to say it. I have to, like, just say it. Or just simple things like, oh, I saw you cook the food. Oh, man, I appreciate the food. It tastes really good. I have to remind myself to say it. Not to be stubborn. And I could be like, well, she knows I love her already. Well, that I don't get anywhere. That doesn't get you anywhere. So, yeah, you got to learn how to adjust, man. You got to learn.
That's a big adjustment, though. Like learning how to give somebody love in their language as opposed to yours. Because, like, I would praise him all the time.
Yeah, and I don't care about that.
I would feel I would feel some type of way. I'm like, wow, I'm like trying to be the cheerleader.
Like, take my love.
And, like, it's like it has no effect. It's just like rolling off his back, and I feel some type of way about that. Yeah, that's what he likes. He likes to come home, the house is clean, or there's a nice meal on the oven.
Responsibility. I see it.
Laundry, nicely folded.
Yeah.
Responsibility is his love language. Like, I get it. I get it now. Oh Lord.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, that was a big adjustment for me. Because I felt like you should receive my love language that I'm giving you,
Nah.
You should receive it.
I can definitely understand that because that was from me. My mom, one of her many love languages is like, she'll come and she's like, I thought of you, here's this. And it's like, oh my gosh, thank you. And oh my gosh, with my ex-husband, I would do all kind of surprises, all kind of stuff. And he'll be like, okay. Or I'll get I ain't asked you to do that. I mean, just really harsh. And I was just like, but I also realized that really wasn't his, like, I learned it wasn't really his upbringing. That's not really, And I was like, oh, I could have just, but, but I realized, and then the thing is, what I had to learn is, and then I'll do the kind of like a recap after this, is I had to learn after my marriage ended, I told myself, anybody that I get with, and we mentioned this early on, I'm not changing them. If as I meet you, as soon as I meet you, I'm starting to think of things that I want to change, no, I'm not interested. Right. So it was crazy. Like when I got with my boyfriend, like for me, it was like, realistically, he has quirks, but it was just like, there was nothing I want to change. Like I can love him forever as is. And that was for me, my starting point. Like, okay, I can move forward with this. Like that, there was nothing at the end of the day, like it nothing that was gonna like, and so I was like, okay, boom, like not, cause I told people, stop taking people as projects. Stop taking on projects. You're gonna be in your feelings. You're gonna be in your feelings. And I know, and I'm gonna say we women, because our group chats, like I see it, like, and I've seen it as a pattern. They'll get with the guy and then be like, oh, he does this, but I'm gonna try to no, and that's where we set ourselves up. So it's like, take as
be honest with yourself, because if something is bothering you, for the sake of being in a relationship, sometimes you kind of just push it away and you just kind of try to deal with it. But in the long run, you know, if it's not something that you want to live with for the rest of however long, like you just have to be honest and have the courage to just move on. Because I think sometimes it's like, as women especially, we feel like we have clout if we're in a relationship, like we're worthy of respect if a man has deemed us good enough to be in a relationship with us. Yeah. And I've seen people stay in relationships like that because of that. You know, it's not working, they're not happy, but they don't want to not have a man. You know? So I think that it's better for you, it's better for that person. Like, you're trying to change a whole human being. Like, don't do that.
Years of a whole human being. Okay, this is ain't fresh out the
right
human being. Like, God,
it's not gonna happen, and it's gonna be destructive to them too, and they're gonna end up resenting you. You know. So I think it's better to just let them go.
So, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Like, I can't wait for people to. This is such a amazing, like, so many good points, so much. I hope everyone that listens just really kind of realize the importance of the communication. One of the biggest things that I kind of, I realized this, one of those things, my ex was in the military, right? So we had to do, family readiness group made us go to like these chaplain relationship things. And I remember them saying, like, when you love somebody and you're in a relationship, the work never ends. And that's one of the things that has been embedded in my head. And that's why I think for me, no matter what happens, for me, I just know this didn't go right or that didn't go right, but it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be work. And because of how life changes us in different directions, like I've even there was a time I had to catch myself because between work and everything, and I realized, I can't get upset if my partner feels that I'm lacking in something. It's really pause, like, take it in. What am I like? Am I really? And reflect and be like, okay, kind of take that into consideration. But it's like, the truth is, it's constant work. Like, it's not.
Yeah, man, never stop.
I'm looking at the gram, people.
Yeah, it's not real. They're lying
right
to
before
you.
that, she almost hit him with the phone.
Exactly. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I was right before we got on, I was looking at some pictures that we took for our anniversary last year, and I was just thinking back to that moment. And I was like, man, I was just a little kind of irritated at that moment because we were in Orlando. And I was like, man, I just want to go home. We got to take these pictures. But then you look at the pictures, we all smiling and all this other stuff. It's like, couples that.
I know, and those pictures went viral too.
Yeah, exactly.
Wedding on Instagram pages and stuff, and he was like hot at me the whole time.
The story behind the photo.
Yes. The real story behind the photo. And I was actually thinking about that. I was like, man, I need to put up one of these photos on Instagram
and tell the story.
The real story behind it. Because this is my thing. I really like when people are like, oh man, you guys are so wonderful. Yeah, it's like, but you don't understand, like it takes a lot of work. And we're always fighting. Yeah, right before you said that, we just had an argument. Okay. So people, the envying, like, it's like you pretty much, you want the rose, but you don't want the thorns that come with the rose. Everybody, they want the lovely, the nice vacations, they want all that stuff, but you don't want the back.
They want the flex. They want the flex.
Exactly. Man, nothing good, no great relationship is just great because like everybody has their things, and you have to be able to accept that about your partner, that they have their stuff. You have to accept that, hey, we're gonna go through ups and downs. And my wife always has this thing. It's a clockwork. Maybe like every 3-6 months, she want to leave me. She's like, you want to leave me every 6 months. You want to leave me. So I'm gonna be like, okay, you just
be like,
right now.
It's about time.
Yeah. You just.
Is it around retrograde? Okay, never mind.
I'm like, yeah, you do this all the time. Okay. We're just gonna have to talk through this a little later on. You know what I mean? And it's like, you go through those seasons.
Yeah. That's the beauty of not giving up on each other.
Yeah.
And understanding it.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, let everybody know where they can reach out to you guys and book a session. Like, at the end of the day, one of the things, like everything that you guys just heard, they're tips. They're like little nuggets. Sneak peeks, right? Little nuggets. Because the truth is, you can't take this and then say, okay, I'm going to take all of this
Right.
Tomorrow try to fix my relationship, because the fact is you need to sit on somebody's couch or do a tele whatever, and you need to delve into things, because like if you don't deal with those, if you don't clear out that them different chests, not even closets, each chest of issues, you know, it's just going to keep opening up in your relationship. So you got to understand that if like you're co-signing, I see a lot of them, you know, everybody's really liking the conversation. If you're agreeing with it, that means that, you know, these are, because it's not easy to find a therapist. So trust me, when you get good energy and you find one that you gravitate to one, go forth and heal, my child. But you have to reach out, you have to do the work. It's not just y'all, and don't say you need to get fixed, you need to fix this, you need to, that you pointing fingers, say we, and then also realize what you have to do, and then move forward together. That finger pointing, no bueno.
The person that does the finger pointing is the person that has the most problems, okay? That's how I feel. That's how I usually see. But once the person starts finger pointing, I was like, oh, okay. Let me just start asking you a little bit more questions. So you can see that you're not, no, you're not perfect. You have a lot of blame to do in this thing too, you know, so yeah.
So, Jono, where can people reach out to you? I mean, I know I have you tagged in this video, but you know, how they can set up consultations, sessions.
Yeah, so you can reach me at my website, jonothegiant.com. So that's JONO the Giant, or simply hit me up on IG, Jono the Giant. Same thing, JONO the Giant. Shoot me a DM, and then we could, you know, schedule a 30-minute free consultation and see if you want to move forward. 30 minutes.
But a free.
That's more than half a session. Normal session is like 50 minutes.
Right.
So, yeah. So we can see how we can move forward. How can I best help you? Are we the best fit for one another?
Okay.
So my blog is at Evolving Wife on IG, and my actual website is www.evolvingwife.com. I'm also on Facebook, Evolving Wife. Everything is Evolving Wife. So you can find me on Pinterest, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on IG, you can find me on my website. And I write an article every single week about relationships and marriage and stuff. So, and I'm actually doing a class right now. I think you mentioned in the beginning, I'm actually doing a class right now on sexual confidence. So anybody who goes to my website and you just sign up as a subscriber, you'll get that information. But it's going so well. I have over 50 women signed up, and we're just talking, getting together and talking and learning about sexual confidence.
And look out for that recording too. Yeah, look out for that recording.
Absolutely. I'll be putting the details out there.
That's I mean, I just know how very much needed it is, especially because I know as a woman, we go through our ups and downs, even life throws things at us, our bodies change, and we lose that confidence, you know. I would have been confident about back then, but now I'm like,
exactly.
You know, you hear your knee pop once in bed, you're like, nope, don't do that again. But messes up, you know, your whole paranoid. Okay, I'm done. Now, will you guys be having something for couples in the future? I know that before Corona, I remember there was an event you guys were gonna do.
Yeah, we actually did it. We still moved forward and we did it. We just did it virtually. We did, and actually, if you are interested in that recording, if anybody's interested in that recording, you can just shoot us a DM. You can shoot me a DM, jonothegiant.com, and I can tell you how we can get that to you. We did. That was an amazing experience. Like, it was really great. We had a young lady come on talking about how to maximize your singleness. We spoke about how to make your differences strengths in your relationship. You feel like you're so opposite. And we also spoke about how to find yourself, for the women, how to find yourself if you lost yourself in your relationship. And we had somebody to come on and talk about finances and how that plays a role in your relationship.
Oh, Chad, that's another one.
Yeah. So look, let me tell you, it's 3.5 hours of just like straight fire. Like it was like amazing. So whoever's interested in that, please shoot us a DM, either one of us. Well, just shoot me the DM. Shoot me the DM.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, because I'm usually the one that's like kind of
He's a responsible one.
yeah.
Clearly.
Oh yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So
See, I catch quick.
yeah, so shoot me a DM and
Oh,
yeah,
somebody said they love this. You guys are great.
uh,
Oh.
thank- you know, words of affirmation, I don't care about that. So.
And go like his page because it'll show responsibility.
Yeah, it'll really show me that you like, or hit me up about the recording. Yeah, but man, thank you so much. We really appreciate you having us on. We love doing this stuff. It's just like, it's just natural stuff. It's what we do.
Thank you so much, you guys. Their information is tagged. If you have a friend, a couple, listen, the goal for this is just whether you're in a relationship or you're single, like to just get those nuggets so that we can get you to love or to make sure that your relationship continues. Because I feel like people give up too easily. And, I walked away out of a marriage after 10 years because at that point I'd done therapy, I tried everything, so I'm one of those that I want to try everything before I can confidently say, okay, this isn't going to work. But you got to understand that work has to be put in, right? That's the first phase. It's almost like acknowledging, your faults. Like you got to accept and realize that work has to happen. That's step one. And then step two is going and getting the work or going and putting the effort towards the work. And step three is staying consistent, which you guys have done, because you've mentioned you've gone back a few times. So I really love that you mentioned that because I want people to realize you ain't gonna go, hit up Jono and have like 6 sessions and feel like we done, and then you mad 3 years because y'all still having issues. Like it doesn't work that way. So that's why I really love that you guys kept it honest and mentioned those things, because it's not hey, 2 years in we're still having issues. Like they've been married 10 years and dated 3 before that. But they love each other to continue working on their love. Like that's the beauty of it. So thank you guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So you guys make sure you share, comment, like, most of all, continue to share. You don't got to at them in case people feel embarrassed, but go on chat, send it in a messenger to that friend that she been saying she don't understand why she keep having these issues. Hopefully she can find some stuff from here and send it. And guys, send it to guys as well because they be in denial. But yeah, go ahead and make sure you tune in. And thank you guys so much. Yay! Let's talk about communication.